Hello, it's
Hello.
hi Kate. Yeah, it's Uda from Latvia, psychodramatist, and I'm doing these talks with psychodramatists all over the world for our association of professionals of psychodrama and sociometry. Yeah, from Latvia, because we want to know our psychodramatists that are, a lot of time in psychodrama and doing great work there. And this time we have Kate Bradshaw Tauvon from Sweden. So Kate, tell us about yourself, because I can talk a lot, but maybe it should be from you. Let's start this encounter, who you are.
Thank you, Iga. Yeah, and thank you for inviting me to speak. And well, I need to warm up a little bit, but I can tell you that I live in Sweden, but I come from the UK. And I realized that I've lived almost as long in Sweden as I lived in the UK. So I'm about halfway between the two countries, and I feel like I have one foot in each country. So I'm married to Lars here in Sweden. That's why I came. And I don't have any children of my own. So I usually say I don't have any children, but I have 8 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. And they're a very important part of my life. And then I work still as a psychotherapist, psychodramatist. And these days I work quite a lot with EMDR, the eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a trauma treatment, which actually I think has a lot in common with psychodrama. It's like doing an inner psychodrama, really, but with special techniques. So I love doing that.
Great. And yeah, how long have you been psychodramatist? And in Sweden and in UK, or there's 2 parts?
Yeah, well, I met psychodrama 1971, I think it was, in Oxford. I was doing my training as an occupational therapist, and we had there an Australian psychodramatist, Heather McLean. She did a couple of weeks with us, and in that group, there were concerns about how is this information going to be used, and there were trust issues. Some people were not going to work in psychiatry or didn't like revealing things about themselves. But I thought this psychodramatist, she was fantastic, and she took us through a couple of weeks. We did spontaneity tests, and we did a little bit of role reversal and things like that. And I just loved it, and I thought, this is what I want to do. So as an occupational therapy student, you go out to hospitals and you do practice at different places. And so I asked to go to places where they worked with psychodrama. So then I worked with a West Indian psychodramatist, Trudy Sampson, at the Maudsley Hospital for 3 months. That was fantastic. And let's see, what else did I do? Who else did I meet? I met Pia Munt there, who is still a friend. She's from South Africa. She was running a group. So when I'd finished my training, I started working at the Maudsley, and I worked with her in psychodrama groups. And I think about then, 1974, I met Joel Bodanes and Marta Ginsberg. He was from the States. She's from South America. And then I met Marsha Kopp, who became my primary trainer in psychodrama, and I actually lived at Holwell for a couple of years. One week I would be kind of baking bread and cleaning floors, and the next week I took part in courses. So we used to have like 40 people coming every other week for courses in those days, in the 70s. So it was a marvelous experience. So I got qualified 81. I became a UKCP trainer just when that came in 93. Before that, I was a trainer according to BPA. And then to come into the sociometry in Sweden, I did a TEP training in Sweden, along with the others. So it was at the time when all the people that had been trainers did exams to become trainer educator practitioner according to the Nordic Board of Examiners. And so I came in with a bunch of people there, including Inara Erdmanis, who you know from Latvia very well. And and we became trainers, to trainer educator practitioners, according to the Nordic Board in, what was that, 95. Yeah. But I think when you asked me, when did you become a psychodramatist? So I think I was becoming a psychodramatist from that very first meeting in 71. And then, it took 10 years to get my diploma. I think it takes about 10 years to learn well. Most people say that, even if your course might be a certain amount of time, but then you get supervision, you practice groups, and it takes a long time to learn. It's not easy, and not everybody succeeds.
Of course. And well, you master it maybe at some point, but you need to learn all the way up.
Yeah, that's right. Keep going. Keep learning new things all the time. That's the spontaneity of it. That's the art of it, really, to keep renewing and reviewing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I just had a thought. Maybe, I'm waiting for my CP right now. Yeah. So maybe I'm in this great spot where there is a lot of things to learn, and how it is for you, you have done TEP already, and what's next? What's that? This 10 years, yeah, you learn psychodrama, but how to keep up, spirit to, I need to find something new or something like that. How is it for you?
I think every meeting is different. Every time you go into a room and you're starting a psychodrama session, it's meeting whoever's there and listening, looking. It's being present. So I think that's the art of it. I mean, you can learn all the techniques and you can learn the method. Can learn all the history and all about sociometry, all the things that we have to learn during training. But when you start practicing your skills, you broaden your experience. You just work with a lot of people, and no two people are the same. So you meet what is, and it's about just training yourself to be present and to listen and to work from that, not to have too many preconceived ideas about what should happen in the room. You've got a kind of frame that you're going to work with, and it's seeing to it that you take care of yourself so that you're present when you come into the room, that you're rested, that you're alert, that you're well. So I think that's the main thing.
That was great. Thank you. I was just thinking about that's not the only psychodrama, you in each job place. Yeah, you should remember this.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but psychodrama covers it all. Well, we are training for that to be. Yeah. But that's the magic of life, I think.
And reading, keeping up to date with what's the latest research and what's the latest information that we have. I think as we've got computers, which we didn't have in those days in the beginning at all, but we've learned a lot about neuropsychology, and now that informs our work very much about how trauma affects us and what needs to happen as we're addressing that, and to have a theoretical approach to that. So you need to know your stuff as you're going in and working with people. And I think it's very easy to open people up with action methods, because we're used to talking about ourselves, and we have our defenses about that, how much we want to share about ourselves. But when it comes to action, people can be opened up easily, and that's not always a good thing. That you need to be able to put people back together again, or to know what to go into and what to leave alone at the moment. I know recently somebody in a group had just lost her father, and she did some work in the group, but not about her father. It was about loss and about separation. But we took something else that was longer ago, so we could work with the theme and we could work with the issues without tearing up something that was too sore, so that to let her keep her integrity about the new loss kind of thing. That's important, to not just dive into everything, to make therapeutic judgments about what you open up and what you don't, and how well somebody is. And we've got the 5 roles of the psychodramatist there. The therapist is an important one.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember your first work, like encounter on the stage?
Oh,
If you can share this, yeah. Do you remember this?
Well, I don't know if it was the first one, but I certainly remember one that was really rather a disaster, if that's...
If you can tell us.
Yeah, so I was a student at Holwell Centre for Psychodrama, and I was working with a woman who was really quite depressed and sad. And I got... what's the word, fused with her in some way as the director. So as I was going in, I was standing too close and I was also feeling sad. So in the end, both of us were standing there crying on the stage and Marsha had to intervene, kind of thing. So it's like what not to do, you know, keep your distance and keep separate. You know, we were learning, so, and we were very new, so it's okay. You begin somewhere and you build from there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, my thing too, to be too close sometimes.
But I think in 71, when I met Heather McLean, it was the idea of role reversal, I think, that I liked so much, that I could just see the power of it. And I can't remember exactly the work that we did, but being able to meet somebody who isn't there, of course, that's really helpful in our work, kind of thing. I think one of the most important psychodramas that I did myself was about meeting all the men in my family who died in the First World War and Second World War, that I just heard all the stories about them, and they were kind of just heroes in my mind. And, you know, how is anybody ever going to match up to that as my partner in life? You know, they were just these wonderful men. So reversing roles with them all and, you know, meeting them in order to separate, in order to have new relationships, that was really important.
Yeah.
And meeting the baby that I wouldn't have, that was also very important psychodrama. It was to sort of, you have to meet something in order to let it go, in order to keep in flow, kind of thing.
Okay. Next question.
Okay.
What is your thoughts? Yeah, why people should study psychodrama? Do people should study psychodrama? Maybe
Yes.
a lot of psychodramatists already.
Well, I mean, the reason that Moreno gave us was that that we live in groups, we work in groups, and that we should make use of the healing properties of groups, really, which is that one man is the therapeutic agent of the other. So there's this deep egalitarianism in psychodrama, you know, that everybody is equal in value, which isn't to say that we're all the same or that there aren't important differences, that we need to be able to meet people where they are and to come with methodology that suits them. But just recently, we're completing a psychodrama training that we've had in South Africa. I've been working with Clark Bain. I started that training program with Lars, my husband, in 2015. After we had I was then working with the International Association of Group Psychotherapy, and we had a conference in Pretoria, and there I met some South Africans who wanted to go on with training. And I said no, because we just closed down the Stockholm Institute. But when we looked at what institutes could they take part in, it was not possible for them to travel because of their circumstances. And so Lars and I started going there. We had some introductory weeks, and then gradually we had enough people to start a training. And at that point, Lars, who's quite a bit older than I am, decided he was too old and decided to take in another co-leader. And initially, Galabina Tarashova from Bulgaria came, and then for various reasons, Clark Bain came in and took over her role. So we've been doing this training, and partly online because of COVID and one thing and another. But at the end of it, we needed to reach out to the South African authorities and tell them, why do we why should they why should they register these people as psychotherapists? And we wrote a long letter, which we've actually posted on the psychodrama.se website. It's called to Whom It May Concern. And it's quite a long letter, and so I don't want to read it all out to you now, but it gives a lot of reasons about all the research that's been done that proves that psychodrama is such a valuable method, that particularly working with trauma. I can tell you, shall I read a bit of it so that yeah, okay. So that well, as I'm saying, there's a huge empirical evidence for psychodrama. Psychodrama's capacity to foster personal growth, to enhance interpersonal relationships, and address various psychological issues. There's vast literature and research on there's 7,000 publications on the PDBib website, which Michael Wiese put together. It's fantastic research information. And there was a recent study that concluded that psychodrama offers promising results. Bessel van der Kolk, who's written this lovely book, The Body Keeps the Score, maybe you're familiar with that, which weaves in the neuropsychological information. He's loves psychodrama and experiential and movement-based forms of therapy. He promotes psychodrama. What am I? I'm really telling you that it's an effective method, and that it's been approved in Austria, sorry, and the European Association of Psychotherapy, so that it can be funded through their state system as well now. And the IAGP, the International Association, has a whole section of psychodramatists, which is actually the biggest section of the Group Psychotherapy Association. Yeah. It just is a method that works. And I think what works is the new research, the new neuropsychological research. If you have this as a sort of model of the brain, you perhaps know it, where you've got the brain stem here and the limbic system and the emotional brain here, and then the cognitive functions here. That when we're in flow, this all works very well. But when trauma kicks in, it goes like that. So your emotions are out and running, you're in fight, flight, freeze mode, and your body takes over as though you're in danger. And it can keep on doing that if we get stuck in a frozen position. Well, psychodrama, like other trauma treatment methods, puts us back together. We go to, what was it that happened? Where did it happen? What was the moment it happened? So we're kind of putting it back together. What was the status nascendi? What was the locus? So who was there, what was happening at the time, and we put us back together, but only then can we kick into the autonomic healing center, as JL Moreno taught us about, that we have, that puts us back into flow, that we can set the scene, we can see what was happening, we can talk directly to the person, and that whole system really helps us to process what was it that happened. What was it that should have happened, and getting what we need in order to move on, and then practicing how would it be in the future with this support that we now have. It's just magic, the method that works.
Yeah, thank you. And you started to tell about South Africa.
Yes.
Well, you have trained in Sweden too, I think. Or
yes, I think altogether we've had more than 70 students, something like that, over the years. Some have done the basic training, some have gone on and done the advanced training. But not very many people are offering training in Sweden anymore, and that's a really sad thing. And I think it's because the state stopped supporting other forms of psychotherapy than CBT. So all funding was refused, and people couldn't get free from their places of work to do training. And so it's only the very few that paid for themselves and could make time for themselves that were able to carry on training. The Stockholm Institute closed down, I think it was 2014. And that was when I started up the Genuine Encounters Centre for Psychodrama, in order to be able to offer the training in South Africa. As a TEP, I could start a new centre, but
So thank you for that.
yes, we took on 16 students, and there are 7 students who've just become directors now. You know, it's a long journey, and they've written amazing theses, which will be published and are available if anybody wants to read them. Some working with children, some working with elderly, yeah, a whole mixture of approaches that they're doing. One lovely paper that I wanted to talk about, not least because it was a Baltic therapist who inspired. I don't know if you know about it, but Ivar Zimmerman made a beautiful film.
Yeah,
about 2004, something. Yeah, The Rich of Spirit.
Yeah,
it's an amazing film which is available on YouTube. You can still find it. He took some old black and white film of young people who were in a children's home who had functional disabilities, you know, they're brain damaged in different ways. And in the original films, you saw how the children were kind of hopping in their beds and banging their heads against the wall to get some kind of stimulation. And then as it happened later on in life, these children happened to come to the same adolescent home. And Ivar was there and ran a series of sessions with them of psychodrama. And it's a really good lesson about meeting somebody where they are. So he had this huge sensitivity for what they could manage and how they could communicate. And the sessions were just beautiful. I can remember one of them, a little boy playing the role of a radio. He had an auntie from Sweden that he had some contact with, you know, so some person that wrote to him there and sent him a radio as a Christmas present. And it was his one thing that he owned. So he reversed with roles with the radio, and he was this marvelous thing that could produce all these magical sounds and information and so on. Anyway, this film, I showed it to one of the students who was working with what do you call it, the functional disability children. And she took great inspiration. And one of the sessions that she wrote about in her thesis was about a little boy who he was worried about his future because his grandmother was getting old. And in South Africa, whoever's working, that's the one that has to support the family. So as the grandmother was getting old, there was a lot of concern for what's going to happen now. And so he wanted to get a job. And he especially wanted to work as a lifeguard, you know, saving people in water. But in order to do that course, he would have to be able to read and write, and he couldn't do that. So in the psychodrama, he meets his future self, who is a lifeguard. And he plays the role both of the drowning person and of the lifeguard and so on, as you do in psychodrama. And just her description of working with that child is phenomenal. So I really recommend that you read her paper. It's available on the IAGP website, because he becomes his own hero. And I think that's what we need to do. Yeah.
So is there any differences working with South Africans or with Nordic people?
No, not in terms of who the people are. I don't think that at all. I mean, I've worked all over the world, in Asia, in Japan, in China, in South America, in America. I've worked all sorts of places. And I think we're all more or less the same, really. But what can be different is that, you know, when it comes to what is it to be lonely or to feel abandoned or to feel the unfairness of certain systems and so on. We all know what that is and so on. But the circumstances can be different. I mean, in South Africa, there's a lot of violence in society, and in the townships, you know, the young people, if somebody's got a job, they might have to support their parents, their grandparents, their cousins, you know, people who are sick. there might not be water in the village, so they're the one that has to go and get the water several miles away, or it's sort of huge demands. And I presented at the Group Analytics Society in Cape Town, and I remember somebody coming there who'd come from the north in the townships, and she'd had to leave home at about 5 in the morning to get there. And to get there, there aren't very many buses, so you have to hitchhike, and that means you're exposed to all sorts of dangers. So when she arrived, just getting there was like a heroic journey. And then her participation was, of course, just delightful. So hearing the stories, you just get very moved about people's commitment and how important it is for them to learn about working with psychodrama and so on.
Wow.
A lot of them work with children that don't have families, you know, their parents have died, or people sleep with like a shotgun under their pillow, or, you know, you live with this harsh reality.
The harsh reality, you know, this is a good example when somebody in the, I don't know, Riga group is saying, oh, I couldn't make it today out of bed. And there's a lady that actually couldn't come for the reasons that she's dead, maybe by the journey to the training. So there is a difference in this.
But also they have, they kind of manage their electricity in a way, what is it called? I've forgotten the name of it for the moment, but where you get a letter saying on Wednesday, you'll have electricity between that time and that time, which means, you know, you might not have water because your water pump might not be working, or, and they can change that at the last minute. So they're incredibly creative about, you know, okay, the electricity's gone off, I've got this generator, I can do the Wi-Fi some other way. And it's all the while this incredible spontaneity and creativity they have to have. And they're phenomenal, just how they make it all happen, help each other, go to each other's houses and so on. Yeah.
That was my next question about the groups and like group setting, because, well, in Latvia, we are having very big difficulties right now for people to start a group because they don't really want to go into the groups. I don't know, we are like separating ourselves in one by one in our families. So is there a difference because they have to be together more, right?
I mean, that's happened in Sweden. Who was it? Hans Rosling was a scientific man. He's written a lovely book where he did a lot of things online about countries, and he has that kind of L graph, you know, of here it's spirituality and here it's groupness, you know.
Oh, okay.
So here you've got like the African countries where it's very high spirituality and very much group, because people need each other, you know, and they need belief systems that help them have hope and manage, kind of thing. And then as you come out, it's sort of more like Europe out here, kind of this. And then you've got Scandinavia, and then you've got Sweden over there by itself, you know. It's very individualistic, you know. We've got the highest number of single people living by themselves and stuff like that. So I think, I don't know, the Baltic country is probably somewhere here, you know, becoming more and more individual. What to say about it? I don't know if we sort of moved away from groupness, I think, in Europe anyway, there's kind of, you get credited for being able to manage by yourself and to be financially self-supportive. You know, we moved from women having to be supportive on men for income and staying at home and raising the children, the men went out to work, that kind of family model, to the more differentiated model that we have more now. But actually there's a denial of the dependency issues. You know, JL Moreno used to say that we should aim at this kind of the optimal mutual dependency, where we kind of lean on each other a bit, but not so much that if the other one goes away to work, that one's going to fall down. You know, we need to be able to manage by ourselves, but also to be able to receive support when we need it. Because if we don't, we become very rigid, and we don't get the mirroring that we need in order to not just be narcissistic. You know, we need that mirroring kind of thing. So yes, there is something about groupness, but there's a lot of people feel lonely and isolated, and you know, they say that to raise a child you need a village. You know, it's not enough having one parent. You know, now we've got a lot of women that can just go to Denmark and become pregnant and be a mum that way. That's okay, but you do need the support of other people. One person can't do it all by themselves. And so to raise a child, you need a village. And recently I had a client who came with her mum. She's sort of middle-aged lady and her mum's quite old, but she wanted some help in, to be listened to by this mother, and to, you know, how are they going to manage this, her mother's aging process and all of that. And then she said this to me, you know, she's been like a parenting child, you know, she's raised her mother from being tiny. She was the parent of the mother.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you know, to raise a child, you need a village. And she said, and you're the village. So I'm a village.
Yeah.
you need the witness. You need somebody else that is watching the dialogue, that's facilitating, that's seeing fair play and so on.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes the therapist is the village.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And the group is definitely like a village, isn't it? It's
and it's bigger village with more possibilities.
much better. Yeah.
But people are afraid a little because they used to be, well, maybe isolated, or maybe some bullying or something. They are shy, really. They
That's right. Yeah.
have to open up, and so
depends what your earlier experiences of group have been. I mean, both in your family of origin, but also, as you say, in school, if there's been bullying or so on. So if there are negative memories about being in a group, then all you can really do is when you're building the alliance with the person, you know, they have their safety with you, and then helping to instill hope that, you know, all groups aren't like that bad experience they had, that perhaps they need a healthy group in order to restore hope in community, because the self is part of the community, you know, and we need integration into the community. We need help with that sometimes.
Yeah, because, you know, nowadays you can actually be alone and just, you know, communicate through online, and you don't have to push yourself if you feel comfortable. But that's is it comfortable? Is it great? I don't know.
It depends how. I mean, as I said, in South Africa, part of the training was online. That was of necessity. I mean, either we had to close down the group or we had to very quickly learn how to work online. And we discovered that you can do psychodrama online.
Of course you can.
Yeah, you're familiar with that. You can set the stage and you can reverse roles and all the rest of it. So they learned that. The only thing is, when we then work in real life, the directors had to learn where to place themselves on the stage, so the group could see the protagonist in action. But and
it's really intense too when it's online, because well, I was in teledrama conference, and it is so hard to be in Zoom all day, because you know, it's like everything is so concentrated and focused. So still it's working. It is working with energy, but
and usually you're seeing yourself as well in a way that you wouldn't if you were in a group, you know, and that's different. It
is really
in a group you're being mirrored by the others, and that's a different experience.
You kind of mirror yourself all the time. You see yourself all the time. You see your reflection.
So there are issues about trust and control there, aren't there?
Yeah. So I prefer not to look at myself.
It's nice to just let yourself be together with others, isn't it, without control.
But the first step to go into a group. It's difficult right now for people that feel like that.
Yeah. How do you do it? What do you do? How do you meet people?
How I meet people?
Yeah, do you have an interview with people?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. For example, today I will have some interviews, and I was doing it only online because you don't have to like do it for a very long time. It's just some questions, But today I'm meeting 2 people at the place, and it's like a little bit old school, at one place. But at another thought, it's people see where it will happen, and see me in real life, and we will meet together in real life. So we are, now I'm doing interviews face to face because I think this helps this first step, to make some connection.
Absolutely. You're making an alliance, a therapeutic alliance, and you get so much more information when you're sitting in a room with a person. I don't know how you would describe that, but I think you feel things when somebody's in the room that you perhaps don't have access to online. And also, if you're picking something up that needs managing to calm a person, that's easier to do when you're sitting in the room with them. You can do closeness and distance, and there are different signals you can give if you're in the room with somebody, and receive, of course.
So maybe this helps.
Yes.
Switch from online to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think invite them to the real place, and that's an important place of safety. Is really important for them if other places haven't been very safe, to give them like a place of safety. That can be the place of safety that they never had before.
That's true. Well, also, it always happens for me when I'm making groups that there is open stage from Nordic Board.
Yes.
In October.
Yes.
So this time it will be too, in the 10th of October, 2 weeks.
Yes.
So yeah, this is the possibility to see what is psychodrama for some people.
It's a bit sort of hit and run, isn't it? People can come without really having to commit to something, but having come, oftentimes people do want to go on and do more.
Yeah.
They usually enjoy the experience.
Yeah, because they see what is that? What is psychodrama?
Yeah, and they have a little chance to reverse roles, even if it's sitting in an audience and just, putting a question to your neighbor and then doing a little role reversal. Everybody can do a little bit, so they have an idea of what it is to role reversal, and in a way, mentalization in practice.
Yeah, so that's about me, but I had a question for you.
Okay, good.
Is there something that you like most about psychodrama?
I think it is just that it is so present that you can bring the issue so clearly into the room, and by taking everything out of your head and making it visual, and getting the help from the group to do that, it just becomes, you kind of get handles on the issues in a way that, so things don't just go around in your head. You've got it in front of you, and you've got a little bit of distance, so you can work with it in a different way than just talking about it. And also in the talking therapies, I would say that you're more like the narrator of yourself. You're in the third person, describing yourself, and we have all sorts of defenses against that. Whereas if you put something on stage, you kind of, you're your action self. You're both reflecting in the mirror position, but you're also the protagonist, the actor in your own life, well, I just love that it comes alive. That people very quickly get into what's the main thing, and you can make decisions about, do we want to go into this other thing that's not central, or shall we just stay with this contract that we made from the beginning? You can hone it to deal with the most important issues in the moment, and with the help of the group. It's like, I know Moreno said that if God ever came back to Earth, he would come as a group, and I think it feels like that. And I was going to say earlier that there's a very spiritual aspect to psychodrama, which isn't just about thoughts and feelings. It's something else. There's a connectedness, I don't know, to the cosmos or whatever you want to call it. Some people call it God, some people call it something bigger than just us, you know. So without being religious, but having a sense of connectedness, I think, which is even to people who have died, you know, that there's the remaining, the relationship remains, the love remains, or the, you know, the healing aspects of a relationship remain, and you can deal with the other parts, and you can let go of what's not needed anymore, and you can retain what's helpful to you. So all of that is within psychodrama, and I love that, you know.
Yeah.
Very quickly getting to the main issues. I'm not very good at chit chat, so I think I like it when it comes to, you know, what's it really all about, and what do we burn for, actually.
So, and is there something you don't like, or there's some bad things in psychodrama too? What do you think?
Not in psychodrama if it's practiced well. You know, so the method of psychodrama or the theory behind psychodrama, all of that I think is very sound. But also we need to update ourselves, you know, as research shows new things, that we can take that in. I think what I don't like is some people work with it in a very kind of rote way, or it can be what I call director-centered psychodrama. It's really all about the director's issues, and the group are working with the director's issues, and they're not listening to what are the needs of the group. So that drives me potty, you know, it can be like that. Or kind of overly directed psychodrama sessions where it's all too controlled, so nothing can really happen. You know, we're not listening for the spontaneity of the group. So, I mean, ideally, I like to go into a group not really wanting anything other than just that we have a good group experience, you know, and I don't know what's going to happen. So I prefer not to have a lot of warm-ups or stuff, because that's already interjecting my own stuff into the room. I prefer to listen to what's in the room, and, you know, what are the themes that are in the room as people are talking or showing things. Being aware of that and bringing that to the center. That's what I think psychodrama is really. And the other stuff is more to do with the director than the group.
Yeah. Well, I've got this, sometimes group is saying, well, what do you will do with us today? What's your plan?
Yes, yeah.
So,
what do you say?
then I have well, you know, had to do some warm up or take my plan.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, well, my experience is that people come this evening after work, and they sometimes are very tired, and psychodrama gives energy back. Well, that's my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to move and go to yourself, and you kind of have energy.
That's right. I think that's it, that you need to do something to have people focus on where have they just been, what have they just done, you know, and gradually, you know, be with that. And then, okay, now you're here and you're in this room, be with yourself in this room, be with yourself in this room together with the others, begin to notice the others, begin to warm up your body, begin to notice what you're thinking and feeling. And that's all just a kind of focusing. And that's all you really need as to start up. The kind of technical warm-ups, Moreno never did those, and Zerka didn't do them really either. You just work with what's already in the group. I think the other things came more from the Gestalt therapy field, or there was an encounter that was also Pearls, I think, the encounter groups from the 70s and that sort of thing. People started to bring in a lot more other concrete warm-ups, and we learned them in the beginning as well, what you can do to help somebody be more present. So I'm not against those, but as long as they don't take over, and as long as you're not interjecting other things into the group so that you lose what's actually there from the beginning, what is going on in the group, especially in an ongoing group, because there'll be things from the week before that you need to pick up again, and how were you after your session last time, any new thoughts or dreams, or and then you're back into flow again with the group process. And I work very much with group process, and not all psychodramatists do that actually. But I think that comes from my group analytic training as well. But Marsha was very much worked with group process. And a lot of my teachers, Zerka, Anne Schützenberger, Dalmiro Bustos, Monica Zuretti, they all work with group process. They were my main teacher, Elaine Saknoff, you know, those old pioneers.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking that Jolanta is my main teacher, Jolanta Balpinja, and she trained us to follow group process.
That's right.
That's the main thing that goes in psychodrama.
And it is very much part of the Nordic board's training programs that is baked in there. But as you go abroad and you see other people working with psychodrama, not everybody works with group process. For some people, they don't even know what it is, you know.
Oh, but that's interesting because psychodrama is group. I think so.
No, what are the dynamics of a group kind of thing?
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, I thought that I had to be the group. The group is first, and then there is group process, and everything is going on. You know, this magic is in a group, as we talked.
That's right.
Already. Okay.
But you think you know psychodrama, you know, when you train in your training school, you think you know psychodrama, and then you go somewhere else in the world and they do it completely differently.
Yeah.
That's what? You're supposed to do it this other way. So then you have this adjustment about psychodrama can be done in different ways, and it can be very useful done that way as well. But there's a kind of discomfort in somebody doing it in an unfamiliar way, so you have to weigh up, you know, are they missing some significant things, or why do they do it that way instead?
Maybe that's their way.
I know in Hungary they worked with group-centered psychodrama rather than individual-centered psychodrama. You know, the group was the protagonist rather than the individual. So that's very different.
Oh, well, that's very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if they still do, but I've heard that. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, Moreno Institute in Latvia taught us that first you learn the basics, and then you can go and make your own psychodrama if you want to.
That's right. Yeah. Because it will be individual. It is about the director's personality as well. And, you know, you will have your niche. There will be people that would rather come to you than come to me, or it just, you know, we have our preferences and we feel safe with different ways of being. That's healthy. There's choice.
Well, because that's a legend that Inara told. Well, I don't want that there are a lot of Inaras in psychodrama. Yeah, please don't copy me. So this is what Jolanta is teaching us too, that we don't have to copy, but we have to know the basics. So
that's right. That's right.
So.
And to start with, there are a lot of little Inaras, for example, but then gradually you come into your own way of being, and it's like children model themselves on their parents, you know, and then you become yourself gradually, you know,
and separate. And
yes.
Yeah. So, what do you think? How psychodrama will look in 20 years?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, isn't it? It depends how we train people, really, and well, the demographic effects, like in Sweden, that the government will only support CBT, for example, then we don't have very much psychodrama anymore. But just now we have something called the psychotherapy exhibition that's on in Stockholm, and then you have psychotherapists of all different sorts presenting workshops, and you know, people can have an idea about what these different things are. And oftentimes people have come to psychodrama from that. And we have a couple of psychodramatists there. Göran Högberg is there, for example. He trains people in a group that travels around different parts of Scandinavia and meets in different places each time. And he's worked with a lot. He's an EMDR therapist as well. And he's worked a lot with the neuropsychological aspects working in psychodrama, and memory reconsolidation. That also happens in psychodrama, that we go to a memory, we loosen it up, and then we build other things in that so that we can hold the memory in a different way. We can't have things undone but we can hold the memory in a different way so that it becomes more functional for us, and we can have access to our adult selves and so on. So he works a lot with that way. So how will it be in 20 years? It depends if we listen to the research and if we can update ourselves. Moreno was very much about that, you know, to keep on, be spontaneous and authentic. And if we can do that, then we can carry on building psychodrama that's healthy and helpful and so on. But I don't know what will happen in Sweden. I think, like you say, we've become very individualistic, and I hope it will come back. There are some really good things going on. Marilina Werner is doing sociodrama, not psychodrama, in schools, and working with cultural issues with the children. She can't do psychotherapy in schools, but she can do work with sociodrama, sociometry, and that's where she's written about it. Also, there's a book about it. So that's going on. I think in small corners there are bits of psychodrama going on. I don't have a weekly group anymore, just because I've been traveling too much and I can't manage the weekly group. But I do have workshops now and again, and other people do too. And we will have this the October group, the what's it called? I've forgotten the name of it. The
Open stage.
Open stage. In Karlstad. I think Urban Orlando is doing one in Karlstad. So there will be at least one open stage going on. And I think Marilina is having one as well, actually.
Oh, great. So it's two.
A couple, yeah, that I know of. There may be more.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, I think that at one point the individualistic approach should collapse a little. So I think, yeah, we should find ourselves in a group at some point. I don't know how.
It's overvalued, and it's a denial of our the fact that we are flock animals. You know, that we need each other. This optimal mutual dependency, the right amount of dependency, being able to let in somebody to mirror you, to be with you when you need it, but not to take over your functions that you can do for yourself, kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's absolutely, it becomes, otherwise we become rigid and false. You know, there's a lot of puffed up pretending to be something that we're not. I mean, here we've got lots of what they call influencers. Do you have those in?
Yeah,
as
we
well?
have.
Yeah.
We are trying to be one, to make a group, to advertise.
It's very much about somebody's individual ideas and putting it out there, and having people respond to that. It's okay, but it can be a bit hollow too.
Yeah, and well, the important thing here is authenticity.
That's
because
right.
there's a lot of filters. People are showing their ideal life, not the true life. That's a little damaging, because in Latvia we have a lot of family influencers that shows to newborn that they are such a good mamas, and other mamas are looking at it and thinking, oh my God, I'm such a bad mom because I cannot do this, and I cannot make those great pictures in my life.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So it's good, but it have to be authentic, not just
authentic. That's right. And I mean, otherwise it can be like a sort of, if you're only seeking what can I say, that ideal, it can become like an echo chamber. You only hear the same thing all the time. Nobody is really mirroring the real world or things going on.
And that's a little problem right now, because people trust the influencers,
Yeah, that's right. And it's sort of youth culture or whatever, isn't it? So we need all the ages. I think there's wisdom in all the ages, from children all the way up to old people. And you have different wisdom in different ages. You see different things. And we need all of that for the mirroring to be good. And how are we going to manage conflicts in the world? Wars. If so, we've got these little cozy corners of little influences going on, and then we've got wars, and how are we going to deal with conflict so that we don't kill each other, but we find ways to reverse roles with each other to be able to
to say
say the uncomfortable things, and to be able to receive uncomfortable things without, you know, we're none of us is perfect. We can, to be able to hear when you do that, it's unhelpful or unkind, or rather you did something else, to be able to receive these things. Some people just can't receive criticism of any kind, and then there's no growth. You know, if you can't take on the other's point of view of you, that's where psychodrama is fantastic. I think it's just in a fun way. Often you can have these mirroring, and I don't mean being made fun of, but with a kind of warmth and humor, you're able to receive some of these uncomfortable truths about yourself, and there's a lot of development in that. And and also credit where credit's due. You know, you were really brave doing that, or I think I loved it when you did that, and you know, getting real feedback about.
That's that is why we need psychodrama. Because people want to live in this positivity, and sometimes if you cannot deal with criticism, or you are criticized a lot, you can just leave everything right now. You can just live in your small world where nobody criticizes you. There is no growth, you know.
No, that's right.
That's a possibility right now.
I mean, Moreno wanted to train us to be world citizens, you know, to be a citizen too. So the kind of the social role was an important one for him. And if you look at leaders around the world, you know, who are leading our countries all around the world, we've got these very sort of, can I say, a harsh dictatorial leadership going on, which people that don't listen to the people, or, you know, it isn't a sort of, it isn't the group choosing somebody to represent them. It's you know, you're not allowed to come with criticism, or to have variations, or to, you know, you've got to do it this particular way, and so on. So, you know, working for democracy, or, you know, having that it's okay to be different, you know, to have variations in society, have different ideas, that there's growth in that, you know, we're not all just little Inaras or little Kates or little Igas, you know, we've got these different ways of looking at things, and we need that to be able to get the total perspective. And I don't see that happening very much in world leadership. So, I mean, one of the things I did was to take on the role of president of the International Association. And I mean, I didn't really, you know, I wasn't seeking the role. I really didn't I don't see myself as a president. It's not my main thing. But when I saw some of the dynamics going on, and some of the interplay in the group dynamics and so on in the organization, I thought, well, I do at least need to stand as a candidate. You know, there need to be at least 2 candidates for there to be some choice from the people. And that all just led to my becoming the president. And it was very tough learning. But it was very formative for me. You know, there are many times I would have liked to say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. But I'm one of those people that if I take something on, I will carry it through. You know, I don't give up. And maybe I'm too much like that, but having taken something on, I will row it to shore, kind of thing. And I learned huge amounts from doing that. Some things you wish you didn't have to learn, but still, that's part of being a leader, I think, is being able to tolerate that the world isn't always how we want it to be, but managing it and working for democracy and cooperation, and sort of listening to each other, and a sort of healthy group climate, even, you know, socially in your communities, working for them. I think that's really important, and that what we're learning in groups, you know, as well as learning how to do psychodrama or how to manage health issues, we're also learning about how to be in community and how to build something that goes out into the world. And if we're all doing that, if we're all doing the best we can with that, then I think we've got a better world. And you know, sometimes it feels like we have like this much influence, but it's anyhow this much influence. And if we're all doing that, then it can be, you know, more.
Then it can be more. Thank you.
Welcome.
So, how do you like to end this? because this your last sentence was like, you know, influential quote for the people. But yeah, we have some 5 minutes left. So how do you would like to end this interview?
I think just to encourage everybody to be like the best they can be, you know. So if you're afraid of things, it's okay to be afraid. That's human. But to come through your fears, to show your true colors in the world, and that your voice is everybody's voice is needed in order to have the total picture, to have the perspective on life. So I really hope that we can recultivate the psychodrama culture. I think in the Baltic countries, it's very strong, actually. In the Baltic countries, I think you're doing better than most other countries, or at least from what I'm seeing. I think in Asia as well, Taiwan, they have a very strong psychodrama movement, Australia. It's all different, but it's fantastic work. South Africa now, I think I'm really hoping they will go on and grow. But everybody's voice is needed, and so to be brave and to learn and use psychodrama, go out into the world with it.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, Kate, for being here today.
Thank you, Aiga.
I hope to see you in Latvia.
Yes.
Sometime, and in Moreno days, of course.
Yes, I usually come to the Moreno days. It's one of my favorite settings. I think you know how to do it well.
Thank you. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Go well. Bye.